I would rather watch Leprechaun in space on a 24-hour loop for the rest of my life than ever watch a single second of Amityville in space ever again. Hi, friends. A lot of horror franchises go to space, don't they? At least, that's the joke. In reality, it's not that many, but we're going to talk about them today. There are 5 questions I'm going to ask of these movies. How did they get to space? Does it make sense for them to be in space? Does being in space add anything to the story? Is it any good? And did it kill the franchise? Amityville in space. How did they get to space? Well, the simple answer is God pulled a wishmaster and sent the house into space. The longer answer is basically the same. A priest was performing an exorcism in the Amityville house, on the Amityville house, and through some odd phrasing, he said something along the lines of, "Please send this evil from the earth," something to that effect. And God chose to take it very literally, and the house ended up in deep space. Does going to space make sense? No, it's a house floating in space. Does being in space add to the story? No. There are a lot of things they could have done with the setting, and they didn't have the budget. They filmed the entire movie in the director's house, his garage. I think one part of the house was the Amityville house, another part of the house was the spaceship. So you can't really tell it's a space movie unless you look at the bad CG and clip art. Is it any good? No, it's not. I would call it the worst movie I've ever seen, but I'm not even sure it qualifies as a real movie. It's 75 minutes of my life I'm never getting back. Skip this one. Did it kill the franchise? It's too soon to tell. This movie was from this year, 2022, but I'm gonna guess no, it's not killing the franchise because Amityville is a real place, therefore it can't be copyrighted. So anyone with a shitty idea can slap the name Amityville on it and make a movie. Leprechaun 4 in space. How did they get to space? Never explained. It's the leprechaun, it's magic. He's on another planet wooing a space princess. You just kind of roll with it. Does going to space make sense? Well, it's the leprechaun. He's magic. Nothing makes sense and everything makes sense. So draw your own conclusions. Does being in space add to the story? In general, no. There are things they could have done. They had space marines, a space princess, airlocks. They could have done more with it, but what they did do was kind of neat. And the second you see the mad scientists shrink ray and big ray, you know we're going to end up with a giant leprechaun at some point. Is it any good? Technically no, but it is fun to watch. The movie knows how stupid it is, and that makes it a lot more fun than some of the other movies on this list. I would rather watch Leprechaun in space than most of the movies on this list. Did it kill the franchise? Nope. Leprechaun went to the hood next. Twice, actually.
I come from the land of the Irish Spring. Dublin's the place where I learned my thing from the Emerald Isle.
Oh, in a surprising turn of events, Leprechaun 4 passes the Bechdel Test in the first 10 minutes. Feminist icon the Leprechaun? Jason X. How did they get to space? So in 2010, Jason is cryo-frozen at Camp Crystal Lake Research Facility. It's not a summer camp anymore. And somehow picked up centuries later by a science ship, a ship with a professor and science students. Listen, I've watched this movie multiple times. I still have no idea what's going on with this ship, so does going to space make sense? Well, he's already been to Manhattan and hell, so why not space next? The cryo-freezing makes sense. I'm just not sure him going on a spaceship and thawing out and running amok really makes... sure, why not? Jason in space. Jason in space. And does being in space add to the story? Not really. You couldn't even tell it was a spaceship most of the time. There are airlocks all over the place. Why not just blast him out one? It was right there. It was right there all the time. Just blow him out the airlock. What's so hard? Shoot him out the fucking airlock. Come on. Is it any good? There are a few fun scenes.
Hey, you want a beer?
Or do you want to smoke some pot?
Or we can have premarital sex.
We love premarital sex!
But overall, it was just kind of dull. It doesn't really feel like a Friday the 13th movie. I miss Camp Crystal Lake. Sorry. I know there are some people who love this movie. I don't know if it's ironically or unironically, but I find it just watchable but boring. Did it kill the franchise? Kind of. Freddy vs. Jason was meant to come out right after Jason Goes to Hell, but due to development hell, we were waiting on that one for a while, so they shoved out Jason X in the meantime. We got Freddy vs. Jason next, and then the Friday the 13th remake, reboot, sequel, requel. It depends who you ask as to which of those it is. But effectively, I'd say Jason X did kind of kill the franchise. Oh, and surprisingly, once again, Jason X passes the Bechdel test in the first 15 minutes. Feminist icon Jason? Critters 4. How did they get to space? This one is a little complicated. There are 2 critters' eggs left on Earth, and instead of destroying them, because they are the last of their kind, our resident alien bounty hunter dude, Charlie, is ordered to put them on a transport ship. He gets locked in the capsule with the eggs. They float in space for 50 years and get picked up by a salvage scavenger pirate ship. I've watched this movie so many times. I have no idea what their deal actually is. This movie is Aliens, by the way. It's just aliens. B-grade, boring aliens. Does going to space make sense? I mean, yeah, the critters are originally from space, so it was sort of inevitable we would get a movie set in space instead of just seeing them arrive or the actual alien bounty hunter come to Earth to hunt them. So it makes sense. Does being in space add to the story? I mean, kind of. They make use of the space station they get trapped on, so yeah, it adds something to the story. Is it any good? This is the movie on this list that I've seen the most amount of times. Partly because Brad Dourif is in it and I like him. Wait a minute. Does that mean Chucky has gone to space now? Anyway, this time around I realized how boring this movie actually is. It was the one on this list that held my attention the least. Critters 4 is neither as silly or as engaging as the previous Critters movies. So, yeah, my opinion is it's not very good. Did it kill the franchise? Well, tying into whether or not people liked it, there wasn't another Critters movie until 2019. For those keeping score, that is 27 years with no Critters. So yeah, effectively, I'd say it killed the franchise. I'm not even sure how many people are aware of the 2019 movie. Although it does pass the Bechdel test in the first 35 minutes, If you count the female computer voice as a woman, feminist icon The Critters? Hellraiser Bloodline. How did they get to space? Well, it's the future, and therefore that means space. The descendant of the guy who created the first puzzle box has built a space station. It comes into play later. Does going to space make sense? Yeah, it does. It all ties in with this guy who's the descendant of the original puzzle box maker. He's built a space station to summon Pinhead and the other Cenobites and trap him there. Does being in space add to the story? Yeah, it's all about it. The space station and the satellites around it are an integral part of the plot, even though it's only about a third of the story, because the movie starts with the space station and this descendant telling the story of his ancestor building the box, and then we get this part in the 90s, and then we go back to the framing story of the descendant in space. It all ties together really well, and it all makes sense. Is it any good? Listen, guys, this is the movie that originally made me tap out of the Hellraiser series completely. Decades ago when I first saw it, rewatching it this time, I have no idea why I hated it so much. I'm completely baffled. This movie's good. Like, it's only got a 5.0 out of 10 on IMDb, but IMDb always rates things low. I don't know, maybe I'm just more enthusiastic about it because I remembered hating it so much. It's good. It's a good Hellraiser movie. And this is one of the movies on the list that I actually had to pay to rent so I could watch it. It wasn't streaming anywhere for free that I subscribed to. So I did that with Patreon money. So thank you to my wonderful patrons. If you ever wondered what I'm spending your money on, it's this. Shitty and not so shitty movies to make videos about. So if you'd like to support me watching more shitty, maybe not shitty movies, there's a link to my Patreon in the description. Did this kill the franchise? Nope. There are half a dozen movies after this, and the new reboot, remake, whatever it is on Hulu, which should I watch that? I should probably watch that. Let me know if I should watch that. I've heard mixed reviews on it. So watching these movies, some interesting patterns arose. 2 of them just have in space as the title. Amityville in space, Leprechaun in space. Not much creativity there. And 3 of them, Leprechaun, Critters, and Hellraiser, were all the 4th entry into their franchise. So I guess it only takes 3 movies before you start running out of ideas and sending your villains to space. It took Friday the 13th 10 movies to run out of ideas. Sean Cunningham has literally said that Jason went to space because they ran out of ideas, and I don't think it was a joke. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what your favorite horror franchise in space is. Did I miss an obvious one? I don't think I did, but let me know if I did. There's going to be a companion video to this one over on Patreon talking about horror franchises that haven't gone to space yet, but how they could and what that would look like. Have a great day, and don't watch Amityville in space. It's not even fun if you view it as a comedy. It's just 75 minutes of your life wasted. Don't do it. Okay. Thanks for watching.